Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tens of thousands of Germans attended protests on Saturday against the rise of the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party. Earlier, according to Reuters, around 100,000 people opposed to the AfD and its anti-immigrant rhetoric had attended mass protests in Berlin, with up to 20,000 also marching in Cologne. Germans will go to the polls in federal elections on February the 23rd, with the centre-right leader Friedrich Merz and his Christian Democratic Union, or CDU, expected to top the polls. But the rise of the AfD, which leads the incumbent party of Olaf Scholz, the Social Democrats, in most recent polls, has made immigration a key topic of debate. To explore this dynamic, we are joined by Piotr Andrzejewski at the Institute for Western Affairs. Mr. Andrzejewski, welcome to TVP World, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So the AfD has risen in popularity, the first time in its 12-year existence that it is putting forward a candidate for Chancellor. What has changed?
Well, actually, what has changed is the fact that for the last 5 years, Germany has seen very little to no economical growth. In fact, many German families are worse off than they were in 2018. And the last 2 years were marked by recession. This year is supposed to be very minute growth and perhaps another year of recession. At the same time, there is an increasing number of very visible and very media-covered instances of knife attacks, for example, that are usually committed by people with migratory background, like in recent days in the city of Aschaffenburg, where a 2-year-old was stabbed. And these two factors combined, the economical hardships and the problems with integration of migrants, have created a perfect storm that gives a fertile ground for the growth of the far right, the Alternative for Deutschland.
Understood. Now, migration, of course, is not new. The issue of, or the challenge with integration of migrants is they're also not new. But there's been a rise in those, or certainly the profile of those challenges, and the economic situation. Now, isn't this something that Olaf Scholz's government should have responded to long ago?
But it has actually responded. It was the Olaf Scholz government, and namely the Minister of Internal Affairs, Nancy Faeser, who has reintroduced border controls, which is directly violating the Schengen Treaty of free movement.
Yes, but it's very recent. It's only a matter of months ago that he did that. This is not a new problem.
Last year, of course. It was September, or in certain instances of certain borders several months earlier. But nevertheless, you can't say that he didn't do anything. But of course, when it was seen from the perspective of the general German population, it is too little and too late. So there is no surprise that the current opposition leader, Friedrich Merz, the leader of the Christian Democratic Union, wants to propose an even tougher migration stance. And this creates a certain political conundrum, because in order to cater to these new German emotions, the stance on migration becomes harsher and harsher with each passing month because of the electoral campaign. We have the party that is poised to win, namely the Christian Democrats, the CDU party. And the thing is that if you look at the polls, the CDU party will not be able to rule on its own. They will have to form a coalition, most certainly with the Social Democratic Party. But because of the rise of the AfD, the two big German parties, the Christian Democrats and Social Democrats, they might have a problem in forming a majority in the parliament, and that means they will need a third partner. Whether it will be the Liberals or it will be the Greens, it's a big difference. The Liberals will have very little problem with introducing tougher border controls and a tougher stance on migration. Like Merz said, he will not allow any asylum seekers, for example, in Germany. Olaf Scholz has criticized this move, saying that it is unconstitutional and this decision would be unconstitutional. So you can see that there is a problem on the left side of the German political spectrum to accept like a super harsh stance on migration. This is a problem partly in the SPD, but it will be an even major issue. It will be a major issue for the Greens, who are very. It is very important for them that the human rights are protected in Germany. It's one of their core identity, political identity for them, to secure human rights. So in the case that the SPD and CDU do not gather enough members of the parliament to form a stable coalition, they will have to form one with the Greens, and this will create a really a problematic situation, because CDU, for short-term gains, they want a tougher stance on migration, but their potential coalition partners do not want to go so far. So this will create a problematic situation for forming a coalition. And why
Understood. So what you just
just a moment. A few months ago, we saw a very similar situation happening in Austria, where you had the mainstream parties, three parties, namely Liberals, Social Democrats, and the Conservatives, trying to form a government. And after 100 days of negotiations, they failed to do so. And now it is the far-right Freedom Party of Austria that is leading the new coalition talks with the weakened Conservatives. Of course, this scenario will not happen in Germany yet, because AfD is second in the polls, not first, like it was the case of Austria.
Understood.
But maybe Austria shows the future for
Understood. But before moving to Austria, I would like to point something out. So what you're describing is that if the Greens form a coalition, it's going to be an unstable one, and we run the risk in Germany of having, a repeat of what happened to Olaf Scholz and his unstable coalition. Sure, is it not better then, for Merz to say, okay, well, look, we'll give the AfD a chance. At least we'll have stability in government, and we can hammer out migration issues and other issues as we go along. Wouldn't that make more sense?
Well, to some maybe it would, but if you actually look at the polls, 75% of Germans, of like social surveys, the 75% of Germans are against a coalition between CDU and AfD parties. This is like the least popular political outcome in Germany. So there is very little acceptance. Basically, almost only the electorate of the AfD, and when in some instances of the far left, Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, maybe they will accept such a coalition. But this is not a thing accepted in Germany, unlike in Austria. So this is the big political difference between the two states. So no, this would be suicidal. For as the Austrian case shows, if you include the far right in the government, they will simply grow on it. They will simply latch on. These parties tend to grow, and the old conservative parties, they start to take on more and more proposals or ideas coming from the far right, moving the so-called Overton window, the window of the political discourse, much to the right. Simply, and this benefits the far right parties. So I think Merz is aware of that. And he doesn't want to go this route. At the same time, what you mentioned, if there will be the case that there will be a need for a three-party coalition in Germany, surely it will be a less stable government that will be less able to answer or find an answer for the difficulties of Germany today, especially the economical one. What is urgently needed is a political a policy for stimulating growth, economical growth in Germany. And with this mixture of left-wing and right-wing parties, it will be a very difficult task. This was the issue why the Scholz government collapsed in the first place. There was there was no consensus on how to stimulate growth in Germany, both the Greens and the Liberals had different ideas, and they will continue to have different ideas in the future after the elections.
As with any coalition, but as you say, in Germany's best economic interests, it is better to get some kind of direction and get some kind of momentum as soon as possible. Mr. Andrzejewski, thank you very much indeed for sharing your insight and analysis with our audience. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that's all from this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.